But hey guys, this is the Growing the Handshake Community segment. I'm Johnny Wu. I manage Namebase, the Namer community. And so this is really, oh great, Graham's up. So I can just kind of share a brief overview of how I've been thinking about our community, and then the floor is all you guys'. So for the Namebase community, it's pretty simple. At a high level, I just think in terms of like concentric circles, right? So at the core is the directors and creators. These are the people that are pushing Handshake adoption. You have namers, members, and then outside of the circle are people who haven't heard of Handshake. And so the goal is always to bring everybody towards the core. At first, we began with just trying to get members into namers, because this is aligned with Namebase's. We have one metric that we care about, increasing the number of Handshake names in use. And so the way our Discord is set up is, it's pretty obvious. You join and like just set up a Handshake name that resolves, and you become a namer. So it's just really incentivizes increasing the numbers of Handshake names in use. I feel like that's in a pretty good space for now. And so the current efforts are really just increasing the number of directors we have. I think pushing for a large marketing front where we get a bunch of new members in the community isn't necessarily the best for the community as a whole, since I just feel that having a really strong and white-hot core that's pushing the community, even if it's smaller, it's going to be a lot more strong than just people who are kind of just like, about the project. Cool. So to bring it on to you guys, I'd love to just get some quick background information on you all. So can we all just go around and kind of share what you guys were up to before you even discovered Handshake? Let's start with Mark.
Thanks, Johnny. Yeah, before Handshake, I was vaguely aware of crypto. I was working at the Department of Revenue right around that time, and I was seeing firsthand just how much the financial system needed updating and how it wasn't working for people. And I was also at the time getting interested in a lot of the new top-level domains. I'd been kind of interested in that for a few years. I was looking at different ways to use the new extensions. I saw that they could be much more minimal and play with context, like having brand.industry kind of a format. And so like I started creating kind of like this Rolodex memory of it. I don't know, thinking I could like consult companies or something. It was kind of naive at that time, but then I stumbled on values.feedback. I was trying to develop that out and issuing subdomains on that. And when I found Handshake, it was like a culmination of all of those things, like being able to be the authority right of the dot, being able to issue left of the dot, really having the freedom to play with that kind of context, that's what got me into crypto. I was a no coiner before Handshake. That got me into crypto. Bought my first sats to get Handshake, and been fully immersed ever since.
Awesome, Mike. What were you up to before you got into Handshake?
Is this Alcoholics Anonymous kind of meeting? I'm an addict. I've been an addict for about 4 months now, maybe a little bit more. I'm an internet marketer, content creator. I still do that job somehow. I hope our clients are not too unhappy with me. I'm not responding to some of their messages these last couple of days, but as fast. But basically, yeah, I mean, I internet marketing, content creation, podcasting on e-commerce, cross-border trade with China, Asia, and overseas.
Cool. Graham. Oh, looks like Graham's connection's a little weak. Graham, you're muted.
Yes. Yeah, it was not working for me. Hey guys, yeah, before Handshake, I can hardly remember that. It's been so long. But I was doing what every boomer does when they get connected with Bitcoin. They dive right into Bitcoin. No, maybe not. I was into Bitcoin in 2017, was looking for an opportunity to put the Bitcoin understanding of cryptography. I wanted to get into something that had a practical application. So I looked around and finally came up with Handshake. So glad I have done that. yeah.
Awesome. Handshake Jesus.
Yes. So I was, if I'm being totally honest, I was remodeling my house in the woods thinking I had retired. Michael Saylor is now pumping our Bitcoin bags, and I can just help humanity. And I reached out to one of the founders who I had connected with earlier on about humanitarian projects, and I said, "What are you working on?" And he said, "Handshake." And so I looked at it, and having had a crypto background, the funny thing about Saylor is I have a psychological services business. I'm a psychologist by formal training, and I started buying Bitcoin early when I thought about it with like 100% of the balance sheet. I saw it right away as far as the revolution, and I was willing to throw the deep ball, and I went down the rabbit hole big. And then came ETC, and I sort of had the whole, crypto education, and I think it was revolutionary. And so when I saw Handshake, I saw and felt the way that I did when I first saw Bitcoin. I could see the truth of this, and I actually think of it, the thing about these cryptos is that they're vehicles for values, just like humans are. And there's a story here of self-sovereign identity and the owning your own identity, and what a decentralized trust network really is, that is actually transformative cognitively. And I think that's part of what's happening here with Handshake, is that, to have a self-sovereign identity, and things like decentralized search and all the possibilities, an NFT, like a word, is like nothing else, really. And so there's something really powerful happening here. And like all of you, I fell down the rabbit hole, and I'm just honored to be here and have found a role in the community.
Yeah, and likewise, we're honored to have you here as well. It's awesome to finally get to see your face on camera.
Yeah, thank you.
Annabelle, what were you up to before you got into Handshake? And I think this perfect Handshake Jesus kind of tied into how you got into Handshake as well. So feel free to share that. Like, what were you up to before Handshake, and what got you into Handshake?
Hi, I'm Annabelle. I work in a chip designing company before I found HNS. I was doing administrative work. Yeah, glad to be here.
Awesome. And how did you discover Handshake? Like, what was that process like?
I was kind of interested in blockchain during college, but not really familiar with it. Then one day my friend told me about the Handshake, and I found out that Handshake had something to do with blockchain, and it is used for domain auction, which makes me pretty curious about the system. I was wondering how it works, so I started to learn more about Handshake. Then I bought my first miner, and I got my own HNS. And after that, I learned about the domain auctions. During this period, I got to know many friends who like HNS as much as I do. So an idea just jumps into my mind, like, why not set up a Chinese community and gather those people together and discuss HNS or share news and technology together? So this is how the community was born. Yeah, this is how I found HNS, and it's kind of like a history of my community. Thank you.
Cool. That's awesome. I think that's like really interesting, because that's really similar to like kind of my story as well, where prior to Handshake, like I did not care about blockchain, was like not on my radar at all, and it was my introduction into like the blockchain space. And I don't hear that too often, so awesome to meet like a fellow normie convert. Mark, Mike, and Graham, we should go through, what really got you guys into Handshake. You kind of shared what you were up to before, what got you into Handshake, and like why. Like, what was it that excited you about it? Let's go with Mark, Mike, and then Graham.
Sure. Like I said, I had been watching Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think around 2017, 2018, and then just, I don't know, I just kind of stopped paying attention to it for a while. I guess it didn't fully click at that point. And I was also more interested in the top level domains and how I could scale subdomains off of the domain that I was trying to develop at that point. And so I was on vacation with my family, and I think it was the Bitcoin.com article of like the .com rush has come to blockchain, and I was like, yeah, this is probably going to change my life. Crap. And so and I couldn't, like, I really wanted to sign up like right then and there, but I didn't have cell service, so I couldn't confirm my account to buy any Bitcoin at the time, or at least like with the time and resources that I had, I couldn't. So as soon as I got home, I signed up. I think it was Valentine's Day of last year that I bought my first sets and immediately put that in. I was part of the block 2016, like opening block for Handshake on Namebase. Still closed down one of the auctions there. Ever since then, I've been just like realizing that crypto, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, everything else is and so we really need to focus on more fundamental infrastructural levels. And I'm sure beyond DNS, we're going to be talking about ISPs and more and more root layers of infrastructure. But this, to me, being able to play Handshake Jesus said, with being able to play with words, own words really fully outright, in the same way that you can own a Bitcoin, you can own a word. That kind of context is just really attractive to me. So I've been having a lot of fun with it.
Okay. For me, Chris Moore, he did a panel yesterday on South Asia, but he's in the domain industry, more traditional domain investing. I've been many friends with him many years, and I'll be honest, I was hesitant. I'm a skeptic, even with Bitcoin. Honestly, I've been in and out of Bitcoin. I wish I was like Jesus here, but I've been in and out. So I hesitated when he told me about it in like October. And he's like, there's this new name thing, and he's buying these names. And I'm just like, I'm not a domainer. I'm not a domain investor. I mean, I have a couple hundred domains, honestly, in the .coms. Maybe I am then, but they're mostly built out sites. I try to build out the sites that I have. I don't really just like to sit on names. So that's why it gives me pressure. If I have a domain name, I just have to use it. I don't want to just sit on names. So he finally gifted me SkyInclude. That's the first name I got, and he sent it to me for free. I think like October 20th or something like that. And then I was like, okay, I'm not going to buy any other names. I'm just going to build this one because I don't want to build. I don't want to just hoard names and squat. So I figured it out with some of my web skills, my marketing skills. And then I just wanted to document the process. Started a YouTube channel and just tried to show in the same background. I've been in this room in lockdown, basically, and I'm in China. So
let me think. I'll start at the beginning. When I was, oh no, I'm not going to say that. Basically, at this time in my life, I was looking around for something to be able to commit to for a community, with some cash flow to support my life, but also just to look at giving back and find something that had some meaning and some worth that I could really dig into. And one of the things that happened that I find very fortuitous was I had been listening to podcasts for about 15 years, and a real advocate for listening and figuring out things through my hearing and just that understanding of paying attention. And one of the things that occurred to half of these guys and their advice, I'd be in a different place right now. So I started paying attention in a different myself, and instead of just using the podcast for entertainment. And as that went on for a bit of time, 2017, I heard an interview with Jehan, and I can't remember the guy that interviewed him. The call at the end of the podcast for just to submit your email for Namebase would get in touch with the people who had signed in with their email address. So that was me. I got a call from Jehan in February of 18, and that was the beginning of the story. I guess the whole idea of having a fulfillment of a plan bigger than me came strongest, and that is, this guy's out to change the world. And that is no small plan. And that's where it really spoke to me that I could join. I'm very thankful today to be part of, and not simply because there's money in it, but this has really opened up avenues for creativity, avenues for giving back to individuals and groups. I've said this to many people over the years. I'm really a firm believer in asking questions, but not just questions where sort of an interview style. I'm more thinking of questions inside our head. Because when you ask the questions, the answers show up. And so are always there. There will always be somebody to tell you what the answer is. Right here that you want to know. That really sifts the answers out there to be more specific. So I was asking a question back in 2017, and Namebase came into my life with Handshake, and here I am. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, and just for context, I realized I didn't share this ahead of time, but so if you go to the handshake.org/community website page, you'll see that at the bottom it will say that anybody can be a director of Handshake, right? Everybody is a bona fide director of Handshake. And so everyone on this panel is a director of Handshake. But we kind of took that a step further in the Namer community at Namebase, where we put a little bit of a bar where to be a director, it's not just anybody, it's as long as you take time out of your day, you're actively dedicated to growing Handshake, then you're a director. And with that said, so everybody here is also a director in the Namer community. They're actively engaged in growing Handshake. And I'd love to hear from Handshake Jesus first. What are you up to for how are you going about growing Handshake, and how did you really get started, right?
Yeah, you know what? When I looked at it fully, I saw all the components from ASICs to Namebase to Bob Wallet. The basics were all here and ready to go. And, you know, when you look around this community, and when I looked into the community, I just thought, this team is amazing. And I can see the truth of this, right? And it almost seemed inevitable to me. But, you know, I consider this a little bit like a pickup game, like a pickup basketball game. Being around crypto circles, and, you know, when you have skin in the game, it's an amazing psychoeconomic force. And so you see the truth of Bitcoin or Handshake and you buy in and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then suddenly, you know, you realize there are points where we all agree. We have to agree that root zone is what Handshake does, right? And then you know, just prior to us, that amazing video about how to use the subdomains in a decentralized way will emerge. But there's a few truths that we can agree on. And so I had to find a way that amidst this amazing community, I could play a role. And I just, honestly, Namebase made it easy because I've literally gifted every name through Namebase, and I think easy is huge for adoption. But I think when you have skin in the game, you'll do whatever you can do to move the ball forward. And as far as building community, that force is behind a lot of what just drove me to figure out how I could play a role. And that's a cool thing about crypto, is that you can add value to your investment, and we all kind of find our role there. So that's how the Handshake Jesus thing emerged. But gifting names was really just like a marketing budget, and a little bit of that. If I need to make sure that Root Zone wins, I need to start being proactive and onboarding communities. And I need to own my name, of course, but I also want to onboard key players in this decentralized matrix, right? So if I'm trying to push the ball forward, I want to bring to the attention of some key players, here's what we're doing. And so it was a place where I could invest and move the ball forward. And I love the spirit of that. It's a spirit of abundance, and it's like it just keeps. I wouldn't put my values on the line for something that wasn't inclusive. And that's what's so cool about it. There's so much diversity. The community is amazing because we only have to agree on a few things. Root Zone for Handshake is one of them. And then, the rest just unfolds from there.
Yeah, totally. That perspective definitely helped. But just could you highlight also like specific efforts that you are doing to help grow the Handshake community?
Yeah. Well, it's one thing that I have seen, and because there isn't funding at the protocol level, you have to get funding from the community or create businesses and create second level sort of adoption tools that have a business model that make money. So, to move the ball forward, we need to fund developers, right? So I'm contributing to the HNS fund. It's something that I saw Kiba, who's amazing, and he put this thing together, and I thought, oh, that's a great place to put money and to contribute to open source development. Because grants and giving grants and donations from people have a tax deductible benefit. Institutions want to give to institutions, and part of community building is institution to institution. We started this Handshake Institute in concert in many ways with the mission and the values, because this is community based, and we believe in a few things, and so coming together as a partner to raise money and give grants for certain projects to move the ball forward. Those are some of the specific things. The interesting thing about the internet that's emerging is the interoperability and that spirit of inclusion. And so, part of understanding decentralization is at the certain levels. You can see with Parler that AWS just shut their lights out. So you have to have a decentralized AWS, which is a data cache, right? And so one thing that I did, I think Greg is amazing. He spoke last night. I think he's a total G. And what they're doing is incredible. And so, I want to onboard communities in that way. Something I got to was it's just like .f, like that, including everybody, even the .coms, right? I think, so to the people, to the .com, to VeriSign for that matter, about claiming .com and .net and .org, and having fun with it. There was a story with Bitcoin about short the banks, and this decentralized Mike Carson captured this perfectly, and I felt his spirit about this perfectly. The disruption of what people think the internet is. Most people think the internet is .com or .org. Most people have no idea what the internet actually is. And once you disrupt the centralization like this, it's an explosion of possibility. And so many things come out of this. So education on that front, right? If it's a vehicle for values and moving humanity forward, it's a conversation and it's an engagement, and it's things like this that bring people together, and where in some ways it is a movement, right? And so I just want to promote that movement, and on certain fronts, because it is there are many fronts on which to fight the battle in that way for freedom, and funding people like Kiba, Matt. I mean, if you're listening to Matt, he's amazing. Like, the crew here is amazing, and I just want to be able to throw fuel on that fire and move this ball forward as much as possible, because I believe in the freedom of the root zone in this way, and I've made significant investments in sort of curating. I think we're curating thought in a lot of ways. We could potentially be routing thought. So, for instance, somebody sold me .truth, and I think there's an amazing responsibility in that word, right? This is to route the subdomains of .truth is just, it blows my mind. So there's so much possibility with this. I just want to push the ball forward as much as I can in any way I can, and just be vocal about it, right? People aren't going to know about Handshake unless they become aware of it. And that happens in certain ways. And, I basically just attack everyone I know, and, everybody on Twitter.
Yeah, I think just one, like, as far as helping grow the community, like one thing I really wanted to highlight, like beyond just like setting up a fund, like one thing that you started, right? Like so many people are joining in on that, and we can already see, like, we got Terry Crews to respond to Handshake, right? And that was totally kickstarted by you. So like from in the audience, like, you don't need to be in a position to like set up a fund. Like, even just simple name gifting efforts is a great way to help grow the community. Annabelle, we're getting a little short on time, but I'd love to still get through everyone. Like, how are you guys growing Handshake? Annabelle, what are like the efforts that you're engaged in right
now? I'm managing the community. Marketing activities are mainly used in building my community. I have set up the website HNSFans.com and some WeChat groups, and we also have our Twitter account. Mainly, I translate and share the latest news about Handshake in the groups, and other fans in the groups also help me a lot. Well, there are something that I would like to say. HNSFans was established in November 2020. Up to now, there are approximately 1,000 people in the Chinese community, and I do hope anyone who's interested in HNS can join our community. You can scan the QR code from HNSFans.com at the bottom of the website to enter our group, Chinese group. Yeah, if you have WeChat account, of course. Feel free to share any idea to us. You can see anything related to HNS in our group, because literally anyone can participate without any approval, anytime, anywhere, as long as you want. So welcome to join us. I think, I'm sure we will make the Handshake better. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's like a point you made at the end about like not needing approval. That is like the spirit of Handshake. Every director here on stage, like whatever efforts they're about to share, they just chose to do so on their own. There was no like gatekeeper who said you can or can't do this. It was really just like everyone here was very proactive about their efforts. Graham, what are you doing for engagement in the community? Oh, you're muted, Graham.
Graham, you're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
Okay, there it goes.
Oh.
As I was in early with Namebase fortuitously from the beginning, I was able to help out with some testing on various programs and things that they were introducing along the way, including Exchange, website stuff, even up until just the last installations of programs. and that was a great part, but there was a part of me that wanted to do a bit more, so set up a podcast, the ground. I will put the others who are either listening or watching that I may be after you for a podcast to add to the. I've made some notes. What should I go to the notes? No, I'm good to go. Oh, personally, on besides the contributing to Handshake and Namebase, there's stuff that we want to do personally, and there's a couple of things that I've been doing, collecting names to give away. We've got a very large list. A lot of the list does not include people who are savvy about what's going on, so I'd like to the request of gifting going into the garbage as they delete it whenever they see the word free or gift. So I'm working on that. I would love some help with that as well. But also working it within trade sectors that I feel are important to reach out to and to move adoption forward as well. But also I think that there are some really interesting moves for us to make into areas that were never even considered. Even risk in third world countries, people at risk on the internet. All of those areas are to be looked at through the lens of what we're doing with security of name and email, some of the other things that we've talked about. So there you go, bit of a list. Thanks.
Yeah, we have a directory for our community, but I think the Namer Story podcast is like a much better way to really get in a deeper dive into like each director. What is it about them that, because everybody has their own story of why Handshake excites them. So if you are a director or a namer, reach out to Graham, hop on the Namer Story podcast. It's all inclusive. Mike and then Mark, what are you guys doing to engage in the community? Mike obviously organized this entire event, so that's one way to start.
Yeah, I don't, of course, it's just, I've been just monitoring the community. I try to study. That's why I'm always hesitant to get into something, because it consumes me when I do something, if I commit. So, that's why I hesitated for a week or two in October. But yeah, I just jumped in. I did a call with Johnny. I don't know if he said that, but I don't know if he still offered that, but I was like blown away. You could just book a call with Johnny. I think he's linked all over. I forgot where I first finally got over the hump to book a call with you. But I booked a call, and I remember you're like the hardest working guy, man. I think you were driving your girlfriend home and doing a call with me or something. But basically, I'm trying to create content, similar to Graham. I have a different podcast, Global from Asia. I hope I'm not upsetting my audience, because I usually talk about Amazon and e-commerce, but I did a few shows. That's kind of even how this conference started. With Jehan came on. We had Tiesh on. We had a few other people in the community on. So I think I might cool off the content of Handshake on Global from Asia, honestly. But SkyInclude is our YouTube and our blog. We've also helped port sites over for people, considering making it maybe a paid service, but for now, just kind of trying to help people, educate people. Potentially maybe might bridge it with my traditional SEO web development agency. But for now, it's like one of those stars on your chart. Your business plan. You have like the cash cow. You have like the dog. You have the star. This is kind of in the rising star category, where it's a longer shot, but if it works, But basically, yeah. I guess the quick answer is creating lots of content. This conference I consider a content. I love creating content. So.
Yeah, Mike, you mentioned the Global Asia podcast, and Global from Asia podcast, and I believe the story behind this Handshake, the Handy conference, is really you're just on live chatting with Jehan, and then you guys just decided, you know what, let's just set up this conference. We'll just book it in 2 weeks, and then just set it up, right? And that is Handshake Community, right? If you want to do it, just do it. Don't need anyone's permission.
Yeah, it was honestly, I even started getting nervous. I think we even last week, I was like, maybe it was a little bit too short notice. but we did it. We did it. So yeah.
And if anybody needs help like porting their traditional website, you want to put it on your Handshake name, mirror it, like might be there to help.
I mean, I have like, it's not just me. I have a team of about 10 people, so they're actually getting addicted in Handshake. So mostly in Asia, Philippines and other parts of Asia, China. So they're on my payroll, and I'm like, man, I'm like paying people to. I'm scared, but they're learning and they're loving it, and it's great.
Cool. Finally, Mark, how are you getting engaged in the community? How are you helping grow it?
Yeah, lately I've just been sharing my perspective and sharing things on Twitter, like being super active on Twitter, being that the official HNS account isn't. And I've been getting a lot of good traction with that. I recently started doing Clubhouse rooms, I think about a month ago, and just set up the official Handshake Club on Clubhouse. So that's been super exciting. I also run the official Handshake group on LinkedIn, which honestly I've been kind of neglecting, so I'm going to be a lot more active with that. And I'm excited that I actually, within the last 48 hours, I just set up my permanent studio. So that's what I'm in right now. And so I'm looking forward to sharing out a lot more video content and around a lot of the recurring topics that come up within the rooms and on Twitter.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think from the comments, it now makes so much sense why Mark looks like he's just a moving headshot. Got the studio set up. Cool. So while every director here really just decided on their own volition to decide, figure out how to engage in the community, there are, of course, tons of community members who want to help grow Handshake, aren't really sure how to get engaged. So that's the idea behind the community landing page, the Join the Effort. So I'll link to it in the chat. And there are just some very specific ways we can help grow Handshake. For example, Mark, for the LinkedIn group, that could really just be cross-posting news about Handshake, and that would be sufficient. But yeah, you'll want to go to outreach content development just for some initial ideas to get started. But that pretty much wraps up this segment, but I'd love to leave on one note. I think Jehan had a great question he asked all the speakers, which is throw out one Handshake name you own that you really, really like. So for me, I was born year of the boar, so I got the pig emoji. Handshake Jesus.
Before I say that, man, you guys are all so amazing. Let's make this the first of many. Providing this forum, unbelievable. There's so much content here. It's incredible. It's educating humanity. So much respect for all of you. It's incredible. Gosh, what am I most proud of? Jeez, there's so many. This is just so much fun. I'd have to say I bought the handshake emoji, and I want to put it into this. I want to give it the respect that it deserves and protect it. Like that, I thought that, and that's how I feel about this. So that's the one I'm most proud of. Yeah.
You said the handshake emoji?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I see what happened there, D's.
Yeah. Well, we talked about doing this educational institution and wanting to use it for that and kind of preserve it and sort of protect it and so, but yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, couldn't be in better hands. Mark.
Yeah, still keeping some of those a bit close to the chest, but the one that I'm most proud of recently was within the last day or so, I won the Unicode rune R. So if you go to Thorchain, they have the lightning bolt, but then they also have an R that is designed for rune. So I recently won that. I actually bid against myself, so nobody else bid on that, so I won it for 100 HNS, but I think that Handshake's going to be absolutely pivotal for the underlying infrastructure of projects that are decentralized, that want to be fully decentralized, and so I'm really looking forward to finding a way to contribute to Rune with that.
Awesome. Annabelle, do you have a Handshake name that you're particularly proud of?
Hi. I have handshake names. I have like
Just one.
100. Oh, I have a 3 strawberries name. I like it very much.
Yeah, there's a really funny story. When I joined the
Yes.
HNSFans chat group, she was known as Three Strawberries, and it's just like I just happened to catch her asking. By the way, I think we just launched Make an Offer, and she shared that if anybody has 3 strawberries, like let me know. And I was like, let me just check. I happen to own 3 strawberries. Like I don't own three emoji domains, but that was just like the ultimate coincidence, and of course sent it right over to Annabelle. But that was just like, yeah, that was awesome. Graham and then Mike.
Yes, I use that name I use that name, made my D-Link to help my friends in my groups. I put their names on my D-Link, and I also Twittered my active yesterday, and you can check on my Twitter HNSFans, and you will see what happened yesterday. Yeah, this is the one of my favorite name.
Cool. Graham?
Great, thanks. I can remember getting my name, my first name, and then I got my second name, and then I got the 2 names together. And when I just what a great the behind the auction, the nerves. Did I get it? And I was bidding against on the auction to get my name, he switched 2 numbers around, mixed up his lockup between blind and bid, and I picked it up. So really thrilled, and I want to be able to capture that in other people who realize the importance of having their name online and having a thrill about it. So yeah, thanks.
And finally, our event organizer, Mike.
Obviously, I have my family. I'm lucky I got my family name. Like Mark says, I bid against myself. Somebody else bid a blind, and I didn't know if it was a bid or a blind, and I bid above myself. So Michelini, my last name. But besides that, I think it's still cool. SkyInclude, because it was my first name gifted by Chris Moore, and it's still serving that purpose. I wanted to build it out, and it is built out. So if I can squeeze in 2.
Well, awesome. That about wraps up the segment. We did go over. Apologies. Ultimately, it's about the community, so I wanted to give space for our directors to really talk about what they've been up to. But yeah, the next segment will be about mining, handshake, and blockchain tech, and we'll get to that shortly.